So now the question is how does regulation affect us? First of all, we want the United States, of course, to continue to be the world leader. We're an American company. We want America to win. The question is how to do so in the nature of technology. And this is where we have to think about what is the essence of the technology. When we talk about AI, what are we really talking about? AI is not a model. That's not what AI is. Computing is not an operating system. It's not exactly what it is. And so it's really important to understand what is the AI industry? How do we continue to nurture this industry so that it enhances our national security, so it enhances our economic security, so that we have a thriving industry? If that's where policy goes, to enhance those pillars, it's really important to then take a step back and understand what is it that we're regulating, in what way do we want to regulate in such a way that we retain and maybe even enhance our global competitive advantage. And so I think the mistakes that people have about thinking about AI is that AI is a thing. It's an industry that's 5 layers deep. And we have interdependencies with many of our adversaries. In order for the United States to advance our AI, we need our energy industry to grow. If we want our energy industry to grow, we need China. If we want our infrastructure industry to grow, we need China. And the reason for that is because the supply chain is so deep. We have so much dependency on them, on so much of the core industrial technologies that build up our industries. We just have to be thoughtful about all these different things, think about the big picture, and ultimately optimize towards United States, America winning, but not a particular industry winning or losing.
Ro, I'd like to ask you the same question, but maybe emphasize what you've been a big proponent of, which is to reduce our dependence on so much of the world's manufacturing on the southeastern coast of China. And you mentioned that we need China to really maintain our competitive advantage, which is kind of by design, I think, by the Chinese Communist Party and their policies to create the dual circulation economy, to get an exclusive grip on critical supply chains and materials. You mentioned energy, of course, the reliance on batteries and turbines and so forth. Congressman Connor, what are your thoughts about what tools of economic statecraft we apply to maybe, in the short term, do what Jensen is saying, which is, maintain our competitive advantage in any way we can. If it's importing certain components from China, that so be it, if it has to be that. But is there also kind of something we can do longer term to reduce, what I would call the coercive power of the Chinese Communist Party over our economy?
Well, I agree with you. We can't have China be the world's monopoly when it comes to rare earths, when it comes to key starting materials for drugs, when it comes to active pharmaceutical ingredients. I mean, Jensen is right that the tech industry here and the financial industry here has been extraordinary, and America's comparative advantage, and one of the reasons we're the world's greatest economy. But we made a colossal mistake in this country, hollowing out places where I grew up, in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, where I saw steel shut down, where we saw the entire Midwest and so many places lose factory towns, lose industry. This idea that we could just be a financial nation, a innovation nation without having an industrial base was a mistake. It was a mistake for our national security, and it was a mistake for our social cohesion. And I would argue that we are still facing some of the consequences of that with the type of politics and anger we see in our politics, because a lot of people lost their pride. People who had served in the wars, whose grandparents served in the wars, who built America. Suddenly we said, okay, go move. And if you can't be in finance or tech, well, tough. And they said, no, we built this country. So my view is we need a Marshall Plan, 21st century Marshall Plan for America, new economic patriotism. Now, that means, though, not just strategic tariffs. I'm for strategic tariffs for things not being dumped. But if you put tariffs on, for example, active pharmaceutical ingredients, and you don't have any industry here, what do the tariffs do? It just means the price is higher. So we also need policies, an industrial development bank, or Raphael Reif has this great piece in the Foreign Affairs. He was a former MIT professor saying, let's have investment in emerging critical technology to help it scale, to help build the new industry here, whether it's rare earths, whether it's critical minerals, key starting materials, robotics, whether it is in places where advanced steel, where we want to make sure we have some self-reliance. And then I would enlist people like Jensen and others to say, help us, business leaders, help us reindustrialize Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, parts of this country, but not with the stuff of the past, the things that we're going to need for the future. And how do we create those jobs and industry? And I believe that can be a mission that brings this country together across party, across geography, and gets labor, business, technology, government all working in the same direction.
That's right. And as Congressman knows, the AI industry's growth is the engine that's enabling the United States to reindustrialize chip manufacturing, computer manufacturing, and building all these AI factories. We are reindustrializing the United States. We're creating so many manufacturing jobs in plumbing and construction, electricians, and now, fine tool outfitters. Their salaries are doubling, tripling. It's fantastic. But we need a thriving economic engine, a really, really strong, thriving economic engine so that American companies can afford to invest in the United States. We're gonna invest $500 billion in setting up manufacturing of chip plants and computer plants here in the United States. It's not possible if we don't have a thriving business.
Sure.
And so one of the ways is to lean into this and help diversify our reliance of manufacturing and bring it on shore, create a much more balanced economy. Right. Now, we can't just be all carbs. I mean, our country needs to have a great labor force in the information area, but also in the manufacturing area, in the labor area, in the crafts. And so we have the opportunity now with a thriving industry to do that. And so everything that we can do to keep the industry thriving is really a good thing to do.
And maybe what government can do is incentivize the kind of investments you're talking about, and obviously try to create the thriving economic environment that generates the capital, that allows you to make those investments. I think, Congressman Connor, what you're talking about is a transition in the global economy that occurred really largely after China's entry into WTO, in which many Americans benefited from that transition because of cheap goods that were available from China, but many Americans were left behind. You've talked a lot about democratizing AI. Jensen, you've talked a lot about encouraging adoption across the whole economy, which I think is a very similar theme to this idea of democratizing AI. In your recent paper, you talk about not having AI concentrated in the hands of a few billionaires, present company accepted. But getting it to everybody. So what I'd like to ask both of you is, what are your ideas about how can
everybody come along, for God's sake?
But this gets to your point too about the kind of the doom scenario, right, of people losing jobs and so forth.
Yeah.
How do you, to use your term, democratize AI? How do you ensure that this massive transition you're talking about, an opportunity, doesn't leave Americans behind and allows Americans all to benefit from the technology and its impact across so many different sectors?
Well, I start with the premise that if America has been good to you, you need to do good for America. America has been very good to the three of us on this stage. We have been able to, in our own ways, live the American dream. One of the things that I respect about Jensen is that he has talked about having a sense of social contract, of a obligation to contribute back to the state, to the country. And there has to be a recognition of how a lot of folks in East San Jose, or where I grew up in Bucks County, see the country. They see 19 billionaires. I don't know if Jensen's one of the 19, but who have literally $3 trillion, 12.5% of the GDP. It's triple the wealth concentration of the Gilded Age. And 70% of Americans don't have a view of the American dream. We've got massive economic inequality. And you know what? They don't trust us. You know, even though we invented AI, the highest skepticism of AI is in America. And why is that? Why is it that other countries are more trusting it? Because they don't trust the elite. They don't trust the people in Congress. They don't trust the president. They don't trust the business leaders. They don't trust media. They feel like we have not delivered for them. So we have an obligation to figure out how we're actually going to get this AI revolution to work for everyone. And I can go into things in detail, but two places, in my view, that are so important is to have a jobs program, a commitment to jobs. Now, I was at Brown University the other day, and I said, how many people are concerned about jobs? And 80% of the hands went up. When this was an issue that William Julius Wilson was writing about in black inner cities, few people cared in America. When Deaton and Case started writing about it in white working class areas, more people cared, but not enough. Now you got like Brown graduates' kids having this issue. So there is an opportunity.
Better than Stanford, I'd say.
I mean, you know, Stanford won't admit it. But we have an opportunity to have the most patriotic, affirmative jobs agenda in this country, where we could say with the federal government that for young people coming out, we're going to hire you. You can work to rebuild your community. You can rebuild it. I was just at a park. You can help do that. You can do counseling. You can help in the care economy. You can get some, you can make local government more effective, or you can come to the federal government, do a moonshot, build.
You could join the Army?
Or join the Army. I mean, but that's, you know, as you know, it's 1%, right?
Yeah.
But I want to have some sense of giving back, even if you don't do that. And we work with the business leaders, right? I mean, Jensen has worked, NVIDIA, we've been creating these partnerships with HBCUs. You could join something like that where you get these skills. And let's figure out how we take this moment of anxiety, where the reality is no one knows what the disruption will be, where the new jobs will be. I mean, it's, you know, Jensen talks about the radiologists having more demand. I would have never guessed that. We need to have humility. We don't know. But we could take this moment to say we are going to have an affirmative jobs agenda that's going to give people a sense of rebuilding their communities in the country, working for America, bringing this country, and maybe giving some new national purpose to this country. And that, to me, would be one constructive response to this fear of AI and technology.
Well, I say to everybody, I say to everybody, move to California, don't leave. It's the highest taxes in the world, but it's okay. But the weather is great.
And a great member of Congress.
And a great member of Congress, great congressman. First of all, I think the narratives of AI destroying jobs is not going to help America. Yeah. First of all, it's false. Of course, with every technology and every single day that goes by, jobs of the past are changed.
Would you mind mentioning, Ro mentioned this, would you mention the example you've quoted before about radiologists? Do you mind sharing that with the audience? Because I think it's a great example.
At the beginning of the AI revolution, one of the smartest and most influential computer scientists and one of the fathers of AI, modern AI, said that in 10 years' time, the one job you don't want is radiology. And the reason for that is in a decade, AI is going to completely revolutionize radiology. It will permeate every aspect of it. It will automate radiology and reading scans, radiologists will be obsolete. This is the one job you shouldn't go after. Well, a decade later, he was completely right. AI has completely permeated through every aspect of radiology. Every single radiology scan is now assisted by AI, and the number of scans that are being studied by AI has gone through the roof. He's completely right. The part that was exactly opposite is the number of radiologists increased. And so the question is, why is that? It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever that the task that the radiologist does, radiology, was completely automated, and why would they need more radiologists? And the reason for that is obviously very clear. And most, mature people, when you think through it, your job, the purpose of your job and the tasks that you do in your job are related but not the same. And using myself as an example, if they were the same, then somebody would observe that what Jensen does really for a living is typing and talking. And typing and talking have both been automated to a superhuman level by AI. And yet I'm busier than ever. And so I think the first thing is to separate those two ideas. Now, what's amazing is this. Then you say, why did I say we actually did harm? Well, telling